We travel a lot. I travel a lot. I did 6 cruises in 2016, and I also that year did Portland Retro Gaming Expo and other trips. So I travel a lot. I think as an average that I do some form of travel every other month. So here are the top 5 travel apps that you should have on your phone before any trip that you take. First off, you need a ride-hailing app. Now, you probably already have one on your phone unless you live in British Columbia on the west coast of Canada. Vancouver is the largest city in North America that does not have ride-hailing yet. So Uber and Lyft are not in Vancouver, Victoria, or the rest of that province. So for me, part of my pre-trip preparation on my phone is to download both Uber and Lyft. Lyft is generally a little bit cheaper, but Uber generally has wider coverage. The first time I flew to Houston, Lyft wasn't allowed at the airport yet, but Uber was. Now, since then, Lyft has been granted access, but that kind of thing can come up. So Uber is obviously, it's sort of the Coca-Cola, and Lyft is sort of the Pepsi in terms of its market share. And as a result, availability of coverage and rides, jurisdictional issues, Uber has the advantage there. I've just used Uber. I've traveled in a Lyft with Sam before. My worst experience in an Uber or a Lyft is light years beyond my best experience in a taxi or a cab. It's almost always cheaper for a single person. When there's multiple people, it's generally also the best, but sometimes cabs might be better depending on the capacity and the specific region. So I like to set it up in advance, make sure that I'm logged in, and make sure that my credit card is added as a payment method, because when you're roaming, like for example, as a Canadian in the United States, you want to use as little data that you have to pay for as possible. The second app on my top 5 apps to travel is the app for your airline. I do like to have paper boarding passes. For example, batteries don't run out on paper. And you never know what's going to happen with travel. And as my experience in the Calgary airport taught me, sometimes you have to hold on to your first flight's boarding pass in order to go to your second without getting kicked out of the airport. But having the airline app is good because that is a backup, because let's say you lose that, you have it in the app as well. You can look up the current information. Is it boarding? Is it on time? Has it been delayed? You can see all that. Has my TSA pre-check been approved? And on board, generally when you connect to the onboard Wi-Fi, the app will update with your connection information, including perhaps the gate you're landing at and maybe the gate you need to take off on your connecting flight for. I was flying Delta on this trip, and the Delta app is very good for this. The online check-in, the updated information. When my first flight got delayed to the point where it would have been 1 minute late than previously advertised, it gave me the option of changing my flights for free in the app. I declined it because I figured 1 minute was going to make it a big impact on the transfer, but the fact that it offered and it was all there, ready to go, really solid app with Delta. So your mileage may vary in different airlines, but it often will connect to like the in-flight entertainment potentially as well. And so I do recommend getting the app for any airlines you're flying on, because sometimes that's how you're going to find out about a delay or a change before other people. The app seems to know before I get an email, before there's an announcement, or a text message. And so I find that that's a very good idea. And if you're looking to change and upgrade seats, the app can help facilitate that. Number 3 is a map app. You're going to want something like Google Maps or Maps.me. Both of those work very well in offline mode. In Maps.me, you can go in and select the specific cities, and it'll just download the whole map for that city. And so from a prep side of things, I like that. In Google Maps, you actually have to go in and basically zoom into a box for the area that you want to download as an offline map. So you don't know if you're getting the whole city. You need to be careful to make sure that you select the box that is all the areas you're likely to want to know about. But both of them work fairly well. And Google Maps generally comes preloaded on Android. And unfortunately, that means I can't uninstall it, so I might as well just use that. But Maps.me works fantastically well as well. And the downloading of the maps process works way easier for Maps.me. Number 4 on the top 5 apps for travel is a podcast app. I recommend Pocket Casts if you have an Android device. It's about $4, and I think it's well worth it. One of the things I love to do when I travel is listen to podcasts, and I hope you do too, particularly Vacation Impossible's podcast. But Pocket Casts allows you to download them, and you can subscribe to different podcasts, and you can set different settings for each one. So, for example, I subscribe to the CU podcast and the Not So Common podcast, and I have it set up to automatically download when new episodes come out. I also have the Rachel Maddow podcast, but I only download that when I feel the interest or the need. So that's not automatically downloading because she puts out, it's basically an audio version of her show, and that comes out every weekday, basically. And I don't need to download all that like when I'm at home. But if I'm going to be flying, or if I'm going to be on a cruise ship where I have limited access to data, having that kind of stuff is pretty fantastic. So one of the things I did on this trip was I was playing Mario Odyssey on my Nintendo Switch while I was listening to podcasts and on the plane. That was really quite nice. When I'm on the cruise ship, I love going to having a deck chair in a shady part, either on your balcony or somewhere on Lido, and then listening to a podcast with a wonderful view of the ocean, and it's nice and warm, but you're not getting sunburned. I love it. So I really recommend Pocket Casts or some other podcast app that is easy to use. And particularly when a podcast comes out and I'm having a port day, there's the odd time in like Honduras or Mexico or something where I'm like hanging off the back of the ship with my phone trying to get the last little bit of a podcast downloaded from like a mall that I'm scamming on their Wi-Fi for. Or like in Hawaii, I'd be walking by a store and trying to download it. The Pocket Cast does it automatically. So when you connect, it'll check and it'll download. And so you get back to the ship and you're like, hey, that's great. And that works a little bit easier. And you can also sort of look in on it while it's doing that, make sure it downloaded, that sort of thing. So you might want to be like, okay, I just need another minute to finish this download. But I found since I tried Pocket Cast, which was recommended by Sam, thank you very much, it's made that whole thing much easier. One thing is I used to try to download podcasts without an app, and it used to be easier than it is now, but a lot of podcast interfaces have dropped the download the podcast button. So you have to go into the code and find the MP3 and download that, and I had to do that in Hawaii in a Nordstrom's or something, and that was just frustrating as all can be. So pay one time, get Pocket Cast or something similar. Maybe there's free options out there that'll work well for you. But I think that's an important thing to make your travel go easier. Because let me tell you, listening to a podcast makes your flight go way faster in my experience. And the fifth app that I recommend for travel is a game of some kind. And particularly a game that doesn't need Wi-Fi. So, for example, one game I like playing is called Balls. It's spelled with a Z. But you can also get, I think, Angry Birds 2, a couple other things. Make sure that it's a game that works without any data connection at all. Because the key to that is you can use it on the plane or on a cruise ship. And in particular on a plane, there's the point where they say, put away your large electronic devices, but you can have your handheld electronic device, which is your phone. And this is largely during the takeoff and landing times. And for some people, that's the more stressful part of a flight. You're concerned about the takeoff and landing. That's when the plane is going to be sort of moving the most. It's where people fear the most, I think, even though flying is incredibly safe. And so having a game to play and distract yourself with as you're going through that, I think is a good thing. And so I would recommend a game. Also, if you end up just having to wait anywhere, that kind of a thing can really help make the process go better. Takes you kind of out of the moment, so you're not just there thinking about the worst thing constantly, awfulizing, imagining the worst. It takes you out of the moment a little bit, and then you can kind of refresh when you're done playing the game. And so I do have a couple bonus apps. If you're cruising, you're going to want to download the app of the cruise line. And so in our case, we cruise with Carnival. We get the Carnival Hub app, and that's fantastic. It gives us a schedule. We can check our account. We can message each other at a nominal fee. It's fantastic. So if where you're going has an app, if it's like a cruise ship or something like that, I highly recommend you get the app as well. And again, download these before you go so that you're not wasting crucial vacation time trying to download something on Wi-Fi that might not be very strong. And another it's a bonus because I think this is obvious and most phones come with it, is something that can view both Word and Excel documents. I like to plan ahead quite a bit. I have an itinerary that I normally build in Microsoft Word, and I normally have what I call as a distances file. What I like to do is when I'm going to be staying at a hotel, I like to look at some of the nearby things in advance. Because on those early road trips with John and other people, we'd get to a place, we'd check into the hotel, and we'd be like, oh, I'm hungry. What do you want to eat? Well, I don't know. What do you want to eat? Well, I'm not really sure what's around here. I don't know what's around here either. And so then we might hop on the Wi-Fi or something else and go looking for stuff, and that's a bunch of time you're wasting, and it's kind of stressful, and you're kind of indecisive and all that kind of stuff. So what I do now is, for every hotel I stay at, I look at like 10 restaurants and 10 things to do in the area. And I put it on an Excel sheet so I can list the address, what it is, and the distance. And so if we have a car, it'll be how long it takes to drive. If we don't, how long it takes to walk, so that we know what's practical. And so now, when I'm in a hotel and I think, oh, I'm hungry, well, here's 10 options. Which one sounds good? Keeping in mind, the Red Lobster is 16 minutes away, but, the Hardee's is 10 and the Steak and Shake is 2. What do you want, and how long are you willing to wait for it? And that makes that a whole lot easier. So you're going to need something to view these files. Now, you could download the Microsoft Word and Excel app. However, I found those to be incredibly difficult. They don't open sometimes. They give you cryptic error messages that just say, can't open the file right now, try later. Why would later be any different from now? And like you have trouble saving, it tries to convert, just all sorts of problems. But the Google Sheets and the Google Docs app that comes preloaded on Android phones, they actually work fairly well. They're good for opening and viewing and minor edits. If you're going to be creating a document from scratch or making major edits, you might want to try tangling with the Microsoft Office product. But by and large, it just works. And so I would recommend having an application to view Word documents and Excel sheets if that's part of your preparation. As well, I think having a PDF viewer is really good, because a lot of things that you will be looking at in your phone as relating to your travel, maybe it's a menu or information on a hotel, a shuttle, a something, a lot of files online are as PDFs. You need a viewer to read that, open it, look at it, and sometimes that's built into the app. So like the menus that you see in the Carnival Hub app are actually PDFs, and they save to your phone. So you could look directly at them, but having a PDF viewer makes all of that work better. So there's 3 bonuses there, but a lot of them I think you're going to have preloaded except for your cruise app. So those are the top 5 travel apps that I recommend to have on your phone before you go. But I'm curious, what apps do you think are essential other than those top 5? Please let me know in the comments below, and let us know what apps did we miss? What apps do you think are absolutely essential? And where did we go wrong? Did you think that we don't need to get all of those apps? Do you think it's ridiculous to bring a game or something else? Let us know. We'd be curious, what are other people using? Because we also want to learn and expose ourselves to new ideas as well. Here at Vacation Impossible, we realize you have a wide variety of things you could be doing on the internet, and we appreciate the fact that you decided to spend some time with us. Thank you very much, and if you'd like to leave a like and a comment below, that will help other people discover our videos as well, and hopefully they will enjoy it too. Thank you very much for watching.